Join us today as we share videos from the vault, special presentations, past interviews, and share with you the A.R.E. through the ages.
Please give a very warm welcome to our own Judith Stevens.
Thank you so much. That was lovely. As is our custom here at the A.R.E., let's start with a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Your destiny, our destiny, becoming whole. Viewed through the prism of the Edgar Cayce readings, wholeness and balance are two of the most desirable qualities in life. The handbooks given by Mr. Cayce for the serious student, many of you know. How many of you are in A.R.E. study groups or have been? How many of you are interested in? Because I have a little sign-up sheet over there for you. If you're not in one or you want us to help you start one, please sign it before you leave. But these are the handbooks that were given for serious students to apply himself or herself, a series of 130 readings that came to be known as A Search for God. These books look deceptively simple, but when you try to work with them, they're loaded with information for one who has eyes to see and ears to hear. I believe, and the Cayce readings tell us, that it is our destiny to become whole. As Karen said earlier today in her presentation this afternoon, we were whole in the beginning of time. We've just forgotten what we really are and were. So tonight we're going to take a look at that. We're children of the universe. If you've heard the Desiderata, you know that line. You're a child of the universe. You have a right to be here. So I want to say that to all of us here tonight. And if the Cayce readings are correct, we chose this very experience. We chose our parents, our siblings, our workmates, our partners, our past partners, and our neighbors. Why? Because we came here as students, and because each person has something to teach us, something that if we pay close attention to and open ourselves up to, will help us to grow into that balanced being that we want to be. We know in our souls we can be. What we remember being from the beginning, we're going to remember that. Working our way through these lessons for psychic development, I was struck, and maybe you were too, by the logical presentation of the material, beginning with instructions on meditation. We're going to have more series of meditations as the weekend progresses. But what strikes me in this treatise on meditation, I think it's the most comprehensive I've ever seen. I've read a lot of books on meditation. Take a look at the first chapter of Book 1, or the final chapter of Book 2, if you want to see a real fine treatise on meditation. In Book 1, we're taken through a series of chapters that are, to me, presented as building blocks, providing a strong foundation of the time-tested principles with deceptively sounding names. For instance, we would think we all know how to cooperate, right? Why is that chapter 1? Because obviously we need some work in that direction, followed by know thyself. What is my ideal? Faith, virtue, and understanding, fellowship, patience, principles for developing sensitivity to be in His presence at all times. An honest look at the crosses we've chosen to bear in this lifetime, the principle of unity, and the capstone chapter in Book 1 on love. And that's just the first book. Everything deepens in Book 2 as we begin to understand that we're in a kind of school that we have volunteered for. And Mr. Cayce says that we were determined to come here. We stood in line for the privilege to come to this planet and get into the Earth plane. This is known as the laboratory planet of the universe, where we get to test the spiritual principles that we've learned from our different lifetimes. This deep, esoteric, or psychic study takes many forms. And let me just say that the word psychic is not a woo-woo term. It is a straightforward meaning. According to the readings, psychic means simply of the soul. So we're coming into touch with and working with our soul at a deepest level with this work. Most of us find our way here, I'll raise my hand, by trial and error. Many of us find our way to this work through suffering or pain or loss. We make mistakes with our lives, living heedlessly or selfishly, and life extracts a price from us. If it's enough of a price, it wounds us, it wakes us up, it opens us to a deeper teaching. And if the readings are correct, we may have done this all before, together. As Karen was pointing out this afternoon, we have brought with us this lifetime the strengths and weaknesses from other lifetimes, just as that first study group had brought into this life experiences from other lifetimes of working together as a group. And I'd like to suggest that perhaps those of us in this room might be a part of the Essenes. This is a great little book about the Essene culture that Mr. Cayce talked about. And in fact, one of the central periods of the readings is called the Palestine period, and that was the time of the Essenes. So I like to think that we are starting this work again here where we are. We're in a laboratory, and everything that comes to us is a lesson. So continuing with the material in Book 2, as we start to study our lives, we're looking for opportunities for service. We take a good look at our despair, and we find a reverse side, the strength and the light that are within us. We begin to find God in everything and everyone around us. Then we come to a pivotal chapter on what drives us. This is one of the most important chapters, according to Hugh Lynn, in the Search for God material. We can bring chaos or peace into our lives through the principle of this chapter, and it's simply called desire. Desire, followed by the 3 chapters on destiny: destiny of the mind, destiny of the body, destiny of the soul. We then examine a life of glory, knowledge, wisdom, and happiness in the chapters in Book 2. And we come to the final chapter, Spirit, which brings us back full circle to the first cause. So let's talk about desire for a little bit. It's that strong motivating factor that can spur us to do selfish things that can denigrate or destroy us, and by our choices, often push away or destroy relationships with people that we love. The readings tell us that desire originates in the will and is of both the earth and the spirit. It's directed by that which is the motivating force within us. And that, to me, is what we call our spiritual ideal, our goal, our capital G, capital I ideal. The Cayce readings encourage us each to choose a spiritual ideal that is the highest motivating force for us. So think about someone you've always looked up to. It doesn't have to be a religious figure, although it can be. It could be a parent, a best friend, a teacher, a coach, someone whose life you see as exemplary. I think of Gandhi and Mother Teresa. These are 2 individuals whose lives touched and lifted hundreds of thousands of people. And they are role models of service for the rest of us, something that each of us can aspire to. So let's consider desire as the basis of evolution, life, and truth, where everything begins with our desires. Our desires can lead us to what we think of as heaven or as hell. Desire is the power that drives our physical and spiritual self, while our wills are the directing force. So if you think about your car, which is going to take you somewhere, as desire, the steering wheel is going to be your will. You're going to decide whether to turn right or turn left. And that is a good analogy for me. According to Mr. Cayce, the positions in which we find ourselves right now have been drawn to us through our past experiences and our desires. Whatever we are physically, mentally, or spiritually has been built in us through those desires. I'll give you a small example. When I was a single mom bringing up my small son, we used to ride our bicycles in our favorite neighborhood. It's not far from here, quite beautiful. Towering pine trees, well-manicured yards, inland lakes, even a golf course that just is beautifully landscaped. We went there because it was peaceful and soothing, and we lived in a garage apartment a block from here. So we poor church mice played a game of picking out our favorite house in that neighborhood. We did this repeatedly over a 14-year period, 2 7-year cycles, polishing up our desires through repetition. I did not know what I know now about this desire and the will principle, but I was working on it without realizing it, polishing it up almost carelessly. So a few years later, and many changes in our lives, we moved into the very house that we had picked out all those years ago. Go figure. Desire made real. Edgar Cayce used to tell this story on himself that actually happened when he was a teenager. As the son of Edgar Cayce, he was used to surviving on a wing and a prayer, as we say here in the South. Many times the family was down to their last bit of financial resources, but at the last moment, almost miraculously, something would happen to get them over the hump. During the winter, Edgar told us in the work reading class one morning how they put newspapers inside their winter coats because they didn't have money to get heavier coats, and it was a very cold, biting wind kind of a winter here at the ocean front. And he talked to me, those of you who grew up poor as I did will know what a flapper is, right? A flapper is your shoe that the sole has come off, and when you walk, it's making a little flapping noise. But if you don't have money for a new pair of shoes or even to get those repaired, you're going to wear it. Well, Edgar and I both wore flappers growing up. So he made it to college through the help of good friends who paid for his tuition. The Cayce family lived on faith. Faith that what they were doing was useful work to the people they were attempting to help, and faith that however meagerly, they would be provided for. They knew that God would take care of them as long as they were doing the work for others. Edgar, as a teenager, was often embarrassed by their lack of funds. Of course, he wanted to be like his friends. We all do. So when they got a car as teenagers, he desperately wanted a car too. He knew it was impossible, given their finances, for him to have his own car, but he was a teenager. We've all been there, wanting something so desperately, thinking about it all the time, dwelling on what we would do if we had it, and then polishing up that little thought, what it would look like, where we would go. So Edgar ramped up his desires for a car. Lo and behold, a car appeared. But guess what? It was an old, ancient, actually, car, and it was immobile. It was, in fact, up on blocks. It couldn't be driven. But you see my point. Edgar wanted that car. He desired it. He helped to bring that car into being. And as he ruefully said to us later about this experience, be careful what you wish for, or be more specific. Whatever we wish for, and we do it completely over and over again repetitively, it's coming. But it may not be exactly what we're expecting when it arrives. According to the A Search for God material, biologically, all of us, humankind, makes itself as an animal on the physical plane because of 3 primary urges: self-preservation, propagation of the species, and hunger. These are all found in both humans and animals. But unlike animals, humankind has the ability to activate the will and choose behaviors and actions that are complementary to our soul purpose. That's S-O-U-L. I guess it could be S-O-L-E as well. Our main purpose, our soul purpose, and our ability to become once more whole. Each day we choose consciously or unconsciously to do and say what will nurture our spiritual or soul body, or to belittle and besmirch that same soul. To the degree that we feed certain positive aspects of our nature, such as selflessness, kindness, gentleness, patience, what Mr. Cayce referred to as the fruits of the Spirit, and use our wills to starve other negative states, self-aggrandizement, having to be right all the time, criticizing others, lauding ourselves, or putting ourselves above others, we create either stumbling blocks or stepping stones in our life experience. Our soul was created as a companion with the Creator. We're called co-creators in the readings. But what does that mean? We're able to become aware of it, the soul, yet with influences that require the spiritualizing of the creative power of the will. I'm going to say that again. We have to learn to spiritualize our creative power of the will. As we do the daily work of spiritualizing our wills, that is, making our little will one with the will of the Creator, whatever you think of the Creator as being, our lives slowly begin to take on new life, and a God-likeness is developed in the soul, or the activity in which we're participating. Physical desires are not spiritualized, hinder our development and get in the way of the consciousness of the oneness of God. Physical desires that are spiritualized allow us, wherever we find ourselves, if we have and are attempting to live the Christ Spirit, to have peace, balance, and wholeness. Our minds have the ability to make comparisons, to reason, to have reactions through our senses, and our minds can be raised to such forces of activity that they create for us our environs. Witness my house. And our minds can change even our hereditary influences. Think about a family, for instance, where everyone in the family is negative speaking, negative thinking, except one person who removes himself or herself and goes away from that environment and goes on to create a positive, peaceful, healthy home where their family can thrive. I'll bet there's people in this room who've done that. Okay? What about a person who grows up among people who are always sick, who almost enjoy being sick and almost encourage their illnesses? But this person, through creative act of will, remains healthy, carves out a diet that nurtures, habits that encourage good health, and goes on to defy the family legacy of illness. Whatever the mind of a soul dwells upon, that it becomes, because as Mr. Cayce said so many times, mind is the builder. We see positive and negative examples in our world every day. Think about for a moment Dr. Jonas Salk coming up trial after trial with the vaccine that prevents polio, or Marie Curie in her laboratory in France developing radium, even though it later took her life. Or George Washington Carver, the famous scientist, studying the lowly peanut and seeing over 300 ways it could serve others. All three people held the mental image of finding the answers and envisioned how their work would aid so many other people around the world. Dr. Salk, Madame Curie, and Dr. Carter brought into being their heart's desire and consequently aided the rest of us. Others, Lord, others is a mantra that reoccurs in the readings. Others, Lord, others. And that's what we're doing in part in redirecting our wills through the practice of the principles in the study group material. Contrast those good examples with one that we're all familiar with, Hitler, who was convinced that he was correct in his twisted logic, even though his ruthless disregard for other human beings sacrificed over 6 million people in his skewed vision. So we can either build a temple or we can create a Frankenstein with our desires and the use of our wills. When we make our lives and activities in accord with spiritual laws, according to the readings, we grow in grace, knowledge, and understanding of God's ways. One of the ways we become whole and become who we were meant to be is through working with affirmations. How many of you work with affirmations in your life? Got them on your refrigerator, on your bathroom mirror, in your car? Me too. Okay, I'm going to show you mine. These are my car affirmations. I have laminated them and I have put them on cardboard, and they're big enough for me to read at red lights when I'm driving to work from Norfolk. And so I'll share with you a couple of these. There's some physical well, I'm going to share these later, but I will share this with you. This is my newest one. I create a new life with new rules that totally support me. I move beyond old limitations and now allow myself to express freely and creatively. I am the power and authority in my life after God. I am free to be me. This is my resolution for the new year, coming up. An affirmation is a thought or a prayer that affirms and encapsulates something we're intending to live or to bring into being. And we use it as a daily reminder to keep us focused. Affirmations work on our physical, mental, and spiritual levels. Each chapter of this Search for God material has an affirmation, a prayer and an affirmation in the beginning of it. And what those are, they are the encapsulations of the spirit of that chapter in one or two sentences. You've got the heart of the wheat. What is that called? When you take out the meat of the wheat? The kernel, thank you. We have the kernel of the chapter in those affirmations, and they're wonderful. Each contains the main message of the chapter, as I said, distilled into a sentence or two that if you work with it, it can evoke the spirit of that chapter and bring to us wholeness and peace. If you're looking for wholeness and health, here are a few affirmations from the readings those of you in my yoga class will recognize. I am healed, at peace, and willing to serve. There's physical, mental, spiritual. My body is healed, my mind is at peace, and I'm willing to serve. I am healed, at peace, and willing to serve. Here's another one. Every fiber of my being will be in perfect tune with the Lord and His Spirit. I even sing this one. I put it to music. Every fiber of my being will be in perfect tune with the Lord and His Spirit. Every fiber of my being will be in perfect tune with the Lord and her Spirit, etc. So, as I've told you, while driving to work in the morning, I keep my primary recent affirmations on my dashboard within handy reach, and I go over my entire body on the way from Norfolk to Virginia Beach, affirming perfect health and well-being. Here's an example of what I say. My circulatory system is working in perfect order. Blood is moving freely through all my veins, arteries, and capillaries. All veins, arteries, and capillaries are strong, resilient, and plaque-free. I go over all my organs and all 7 endocrine centers and affirm that they're vital, healthy, and working cooperatively and harmoniously with all my other body systems. So I'm trying to communicate. The body is just waiting to serve us, Mr. Cayce said. And he said the best time to give these suggestions to yourself is when you're falling asleep, when the body is in what's called the hypnagogic state, the most suggestible state. You're taking that into sleep. And that's how people learn foreign languages, listening to the tapes as they're going into that hypnagogic state. So I want you to try this. You're going to, before the weekend's out, I hope, you'll have an affirmation to take home that's just for you, and this is something you can experiment with. The reason it's so powerful in that hypnagogic state is because that's when our bodies are moving from one level of consciousness to another. We are moving from the conscious, then through the unconscious into the superconscious, the soul mind, where we are trying to get the message. Note that the affirmations are always stated strongly and purposefully. They're always in the positive present tense. Some of you have heard me tell about having a cyst removed a few years ago from my ovary. The doctor wanted to operate, but I asked for a 6-week hiatus. And I went to the library on the 2nd floor upstairs, and by the way, do not leave this place before visiting that library. All of the readings are up there in bound volumes. You can look at any of them. All of the circulating files, which I must show you, there are hundreds of them, medical and non-medical topics. And you can do what I did. I bought the file on ovarian cyst. I took my yellow highlighter, I read the entire file, I put together my dietary plan, my exercise plan, my sleep suggestions, and then I went to work. So the reading said that I needed to do hot castor oil packs on the left ovary for 30 days. So for 30 days in the evening, I did that. It also said to eat more yellow and orange vegetables and fruits because I needed to ramp up my immune system. I did that. It said stop any strong exercise and just walk. So I put my yoga aside and anything else I was doing, and I just did walking for that. And then it said make your sleep suggestions. These affirmations that we do at bedtime, he called sleep suggestions. So here's what I would say when I was falling asleep at night in the declarative positive form. And he also said, do not use any negatives in whatever your sleep suggestion is. So no words like no or not or can't or any of that, okay? So this is what I told my body each night. Little cyst, I'm talking to you. You're shrinking and growing smaller and smaller each day until you're totally gone. Your time is up here. You're shrinking and disappearing, little cyst. Goodbye. So at the end of 6 weeks, I returned to the doctor who wanted to operate. Guess what? No trace of the cyst. Gone. Was I surprised? Not really. I expected it. Was he surprised? Yes. P.S. I also used the affirmation. This is a wonderful affirmation from one of the Search for God chapters. Not my will, but thine be done in me and through me. Because I realized from the readings that sometimes there are medical situations that we must go through for reasons that we don't always know. And I didn't know if this was one of them. I wanted to be healed in order to be allowed to continue in a helping capacity. So I set my intention and went forward. You know that the names were taken off all the readings and they were numbered for privacy reasons. So I'm going to be quoting readings and I'll be giving you numbers, and I'll explain that as we go to protect the privacy of the original people. So this is a favorite affirmation straight from the readings. Mr. Cayce told a young woman, her number was 2540-1, which means her first reading, quote, when fear of the future occurs, or fear of the past, or fear of what others will say, put all such away with this prayer. Here's the affirmation. Here am I, Lord, thine. Keep me in the way thou would have me go, rather than in that I might choose. This is the fail-safe affirmation, I think, that we get protected when we use it. So what we're doing here is opening ourselves up for direction, guidance, and instruction from a higher source than our own wants, needs, or desires. In another reading, Mr. Cayce told a young man, number 2533 in his 7th reading, to pray this prayer or affirmation 3 times every day and to agree upon a specific time and not merely say it, but feel it and be it, he said. And here it is. Lord, thy will be done in me today. Lord, thy will be done in me today. Lord, thy will be done in me today. That is powerful. And here's another affirmation I'm currently using. Lord, oops, I think I have it right here. I certainly do. Lord, use thou me, my body, my mind, in such a way and manner that I as thy servant may fill those lives and hearts and minds I meet day by day with such hope and faith and power in thy might, that it might bring the awareness of thy presence into the experience of others as well as myself. And then this one, thy will, thy purpose, not mine. Make me willing to be the channel thou would have me to be, O Lord, that my life and my associations may be beautiful and helpful in the experiences of those I meet and am associated with day by day. So there's tons of affirmations we can pull out of those readings. When you go exploring upstairs, do what I used to do in my lunch hour here. I would walk in the library and just walk along the readings and put my hand out, and suddenly I would pull out one. I would just open the book, and of course what I needed was right there. It works. But notice how the theme of service is woven into the affirmations for those ones that I just read to you, and how it reaches past the person it's given for into the larger community. In bringing hope, faith, and power of God's might, whoever or whatever her conception of God was, to others by the way she treated them and the example she set with her life experience, she would herself have a greater, deeper awareness and experience of God in her life. Our Monday and Friday staff study groups have used the next short affirmation as a weekly discipline or experiment when we're in a difficult situation or relationship. And here it is. Christ is my ideal. He is helping me now. Christ is my ideal. He is helping me now. Bring that Christ energy into the moment, into the situation. And if you're not comfortable with the word Christ, put your own word in there. Could be Moses or Yahweh or Buddha or Allah or whomever. One of the best work study group programs that used to meet across at the old Marshall when we had the hotel and people like you came and stayed in the rooms across the street and attended the conferences was a young Muslim gentleman that I met. Many of you know Muhammad. And he was just wonderful. And he came to our Search for God Christian, so-called, study group, and he was delighted with it. And he enlightened me with the points from the Quran and the Bible that were very similar. So that was my first meeting with a person who was a Muslim, and it was delightful. And as those of you in study groups know, we have people of all and no religions in our groups, and everyone gets along perfectly well, because we know that there is that of God in us and there is that of God in everybody else. So I'm going to share finally an affirmation that is one of the most all-inclusive affirmations I've ever seen or come across. And it's not by Edgar Cayce. It was written by people in the first Economic Healing Study Group that was started by members of the A.R.E. New York Center in the 1950s. All of them were in Search for God study groups. And when you hear this affirmation, you will, I hope, agree with me that it's one of the most perfectly written affirmations I've ever seen. It covers everything. We've used it here in our Economic Healing group when we met here. And it goes like this. Close your eyes. I'm just going to read it to you, okay? Our Father God, ever-flowing source of all supply, we return to you all love, praise, and honor. We give thanks for the stewardship of your abundance and for the responsibility it brings. We thank you for the ability to overcome all obstacles, for in the overcoming we shall find you, and healing and growth will begin. Cleanse us in body, mind, and spirit, and let there be alignment of all life forces throughout our beings. Replace all thoughts of limitation and scarcity with positive knowledge of the law of supply that manifest your abundance here and now. Teach us how to pray, O Father. We submit to you all ideals, plans, and aspirations for correction and approval according to your will. Help us to recognize your guidance and act accordingly. Make us aware of all our talents and how best to present them in joyous, loving service to your glory, O God. Let the end and the means be one in you. Show us the way in Christ's name. Amen. Isn't that exquisite? So the attitude that we hold for these physical, mental, or spiritual healings was written by Mr. Cayce in a letter that he was writing to Mrs. 601 in 1935. And he wrote to her, "If something answers from within, proceed. If not, don't. There should be full cooperation and faith when following the treatment. So we have to believe in what we're doing and expect it to happen, to help it along, to help it happen. He told another person, Miss 935-1, this treatment requires excuse me, patience, persistence, and most of all, consistency. Be constructive and sympathetic. And he reminded Mr. 434 in his first reading, the duty then is not only to self, but to that which the body may give to others. So let's think about that for a second. Our duty is not just to try to fix ourselves, but we're fixing ourselves for a reason, so that we can then continue to serve our families, our coworkers, our world, our church family, whatever. We have a job to do. And this brings us to Mr. Cayce's often asked questions to those who came to him with this disease or that condition or challenge. And the source would ask them, what do you want to get well for? In other words, why do you want to be healed? And what are you willing to change or do differently in your life if you come through this situation? That is a key question. What price are we willing to pay? Well, I would suggest to you, and I don't have the little book, but it's in the book room. There's a small book written by a mathematician from Russia, Mr. Uspensky, P.D. Uspensky. And that little book has so many suggestions in it. It's in paperback and it's on the display with all of the other books that we have out there. Mr. Gurdjieff, with whom Uspensky studied, said that all of us have something called chief features. That is, we have things that are driving other people crazy about us, and they have been trying to tell us for years about these things, and for some reason, we have not wanted to deal with it. We just don't want to face it or do anything about it. But we need to come to a place where we decide that we're going to do this. And how can we do it? Well, I'll show you one thing that I started doing. I have these little books. I have lots of these little books that I buy and make. And these are called my key books. And I put in here the keys to Judith, the keys to the things that I should be working on to change. I'm just going to share a few with you, if I might. This is one that's my husband's favorite. Make it your God not to react. He loves that one. He's working on it too. Okay, in this book, it says in the beginning, it is only when you master your weakness that you discover your gift. So that was my little encouragement to myself. I have to master these weaknesses so that I can discover my gift. Okay? Feel other people more than you feel yourself. Watch your personal preferences. Listen to what is brought to you and do not discount it. Give only that response, that energy that is needed in a given situation. No more, no less. I won't go on. I could read you the whole book, but I won't, okay? Habit is the opposite of God. If we work on decreasing our habits, we can hear our soul speak to us more clearly. So this works for me. I would suggest that you might get an old notebook and try it and see. Another thing that was helpful to me was looking at my family, because I was wondering, who are these people? And how did I end up in this household with these people that I, am related to? And when I came into the work here and the readings, I realized all of a sudden that they were the work. And I wasn't getting it. And so I went home with a notebook like that and sat quietly in a corner and I observed my family. It was a wonderful experience. I wrote down what I saw. I put their name and I put down what I saw. And I suddenly realized where I had learned all my bad habits. I had picked a lot of them up from them, but also I looked at their good qualities, and there were some wonderful, wonderful, strong qualities that I hope I was able to pull from them as well. But it made me look at my parents and my family altogether differently. First, it made me love them more unconditionally and not be offended or wounded by things that they would say. I would just take a little mental step back, as we talked about doing today, and watch myself go by. So, where am I? take off. The highest and the most difficult price is what the Cayce readings address so beautifully in this A Search for God material. In painstaking detail, they suggest and encourage in the chapters to point out how we begin where we are. It's not like we've got to jump to some place. We start exactly where we are, and we go forward from there. And it works for all of us in painstaking detail. So we make these positive changes in our lives, and we find that we're moving from point A to point B, where we wanted to go or needed to go. But we need courage on this journey. We need honesty for this assignment. When we take ourselves in hand when in seeking a new beginning, the real you, the real us, it's well to remember something that another famous philosopher said, Winnie the Pooh. In the Tao of Pooh, we encounter this classic Taoist principle of simplicity. It's called the uncarved block, and it states that, quote, things in their original simplicity contain their own natural power. That's a good word, power. And power that is easily spoiled and lost when that simplicity is changed. The principle applies not only to the natural beauty and function, but to people as well. So we're saying that inside us, our souls, we have the answers we need. We just have to get through the layers that we have covered over, that essence of ourselves. So consider your original simplicity and beauty that contains your own natural power. We've covered over this core, the essence of who we are, with artificial mannerisms and ways. We've been like children, playing at dress-up, trying on other people's clothing to see if it fits us, and copying others because we don't trust our own instincts and our own beauty. The weekly discussions of major principles from the work of Edgar Cayce in this study, coupled with regular periods of prayer for others, meditation, and the weekly group assignments, or disciplines as they're called, that help us to live the concepts from the readings and give us a way to measure our growth honestly, week by week, as we tackle this process of unwinding the layers of artificiality that we've allowed to cover over and nearly smother that spark of our soul, that essence, our soul purpose. This work, my friends, is the doorway, I believe, to our higher purpose. Consider making one of your New Year's resolutions to align yourself with other seekers of like minds, if you're not already in a group. Remember, we break a habit by forming another habit. This afternoon, Karen gave us a powerful look at reincarnation choices that bring us into contact with this work and how to overcome our past tendencies and go forward in faith. This weekend, you'll be hearing Ways to Work on Healing Your Emotions tomorrow with Jan Watkins, How to Set Up Your Living Space tomorrow night with Peggy Cross in a way that encourages wholeness. You have the opportunity to learn healthy physical routines. If you've been putting that on your list of things to do, don't wait any longer. Meet Peter in the Grove at 7:45 in the morning. He comes 15 minutes earlier. It starts at 8, but be there and you'll be glad you went. Go there and absorb. Ellen Casey is going to be leading a World Peace Meditation at 7 a.m. on New Year's Eve. Get up and come up here. She's been doing that here for years, and she's one of the lights of this place. You do not want to miss that. This is a chance for us to link up with people when we go to the World Peace Meditation, because people around the world are meditating at their version of 7 a.m. It's 7 for us, but it's different times all the way around the world. And as my friend RN Christine Johnson says, there's a Department of War, there should be a Department of Peace. And I say we can, yes. She even wrote a paper about it. She let me read her paper. She's embarrassed now that I put her in this talk, but it's the truth. But I think that we could create a Department of Peace, and it starts right here. You can join us each day that you're here for this weekend for the noontime staff meditation on the 3rd floor in the meditation room. If you want to re-energize and revitalize yourself, come. On Monday, Edgar Cayce will do an in-depth presentation of meditation and how it connects our body, mind, and spirit, followed by a panel discussion with Karen, Corinne, and me. And at 2 o'clock, come up on the north wing of the porch at the hospital when we have our session for study group work. Past, present, and future. Everybody's welcome to this. So, while you're here, there's a lot of things I've suggested that you consider doing. So, one of the things you might think about doing is doing a walking meditation on the beach. How many of you are not from here? You don't have an ocean where you come from. Okay, do not leave here without walking on the beach. You can do your walking meditation, use your affirmation. Something will come to you. Be open for that. Go into the state park. How many of you have been to the state park here? 64th Street, 2 blocks down, 3 blocks down. Take a right on the land side. Vicki Schufer is going to lead a walk on that tomorrow or the next day, I think. But that's a possibility. But go by yourself if you miss that. Be sure to go to the library, as I said, and be led to what you need. You can ask the helpful librarians to help you find a topic you're looking for, or you can look at the list of circulating files. It's in alphabetical order for all the medical stuff, and then the non-medical is grouped in little sections. Find what you need and take it home with you. Okay? Find the things that will help you to wholeness of body, mind, and spirit, because the goal of every speaker and every program here this weekend is to help you, is to have you leave here with a plan of action that you're going to start for your new year and for your new life. The A.R.E. Camp Friends, including new and interested people, are holding a 4:30 meeting in the Copeland Dining Room and a potluck supper and social at 6. So if you get a chance, go up there and meet them. From 7 to 8 on Monday, there's a luminary prayer circle with the Glad Helpers, again, 3rd floor meditation room. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. We pray for all the people who have passed on in the last year, reading their names aloud. And you can give requests to them. The New Year's party will begin afterwards on New Year's Eve around 8 o'clock in this room, and our DJ friend will be here, but around 11:15 we'll start quieting down, we'll start rearranging chairs, getting ready for our midnight meditation. And we make that shift from party to meditation from 11:30 to 12:01. So I hope you're going to plan to be here, and I want you to know that people are linking up with us around the world. A.R.E. members who couldn't come, as you have come here, they're going to be meditating with us in their time zone and where they are. And my friend Laura, I don't know where she is, right here, Laura is bringing a candle that she has made, and she's going to bring some essential oils. We're going to create a special sacred space here to do our meditation in. So please come and join us with that. I'm going to leave you with my poem. And this poem is very short, and it was written going into those state park that I told you about. And this is my prayer for you. Close your eyes, please. I'm going to read it to you. Tonight you must trust that the road you cannot see is there, and moreover a friend. Believe in your own beauty. And I am going to talk a little bit about the books that are up here because I need to finish out this segment, and then we're going to take a short break. And while you go to the bathroom or whatever, get some water, we're going to put the chairs in circles. I'm going to ask you to be in a small group of 5 people, people that you don't know, that you did not come with. I want you to make some new friends here tonight. And Laura and I are going to give you a handout, and we're going to have a little mini study group right here. We're going to discuss some of the chapter of destiny, and we're going to see what we come up with and then share it with everybody. Okay? So let me show you what these books are so you know. This is Mark's book that goes with these two. It used to be in 2 volumes. It's been combined. This is Experiments in a Search for God. There are 24 chapters combined in these 2 books, and there are 24 lessons here. If you're in a study group and you're having trouble coming up with a suggestion for a discipline or experiment, this is a very helpful tool. We now have the original study group readings that from which these books were distilled in paperback in the book room. This is brand new as of last year. We also have part 1 and part 2, the expanded Search for God series. These are wonderful. These are adjunct readings given to people where Search for God material came through. Because as Mr. Cayce was giving the Search for God material, he started giving physical readings to other people, but in the middle of the physical reading, he would start telling them about Search for God principles. He was so on fire with it. So this was put together for you for that. And this is what Karen talked about today. This is what the Glad Helpers use, their meditation books. So this is book 1, and there is also a book 2. Edgar Cayce's Story of the Soul, if you would like to read a very reasoned treatise on that by W.H. Church, who wrote for us for many years, this is in the book room also. So, and I want to make sure everybody gets one of these before you leave. We have free copies on the back table. They're both the same book, just different covers. So this has a lot of information about meditation in it, if you don't already have that. Any questions for me? Come on, you guys. Okay, question.
What was that first book you held up about? Okay.
The Essenes?
Yes.
Yes. This is called Edgar Cayce on the Mysterious Essenes. It's excellent, excellent. It is by Reuben Miller and John Van Auken. So a collaboration. Anything else? No other questions? All right, well, Kevin, we're on time. And I'm going to let you all have a little break, stretch break, rest break. Come back here with your little group of 4 other people and yourself, and we'll get started on that, okay? Thank you so much.
Well, hi, welcome back to the Edgar Cayce Foundation Archives. We've talked a lot these past few times that we've been together about how we preserve all of the historical materials in the Edgar Cayce Foundation's collections. And so now I want to go one step further and talk about, why we're preserving this material, all the different uses that we have for this. And so I'm going to ask you all to put on your historian hats and come with me and look at the collection from the original Cayce Hospital and the Association of National Investigators. So this was the organization that was formed in 1927 before the A.R.E. was started, and they were dedicated to both studying Edgar Cayce's work as well as running the Cayce Hospital. And so these are all resources that Gladys Davis saved after the hospital was closed in 1930. And this can tell us a whole lot about the reasoning behind the hospital's founding, the day-to-day activities, the staff, what the hospital looked like, how it was run. And so this is basically the raw material from which the historical record is made. So we're going to start with this booklet right here. Now this is one of the informational booklets about Edgar Cayce's work that was published by A.R.E. And so we can see there's a lot of notations here. Now I know from experience just working in the archive that this is Gladys Davis's handwriting. And so she did an excellent job in giving us a lot of further supplemental information that we can use to learn more about the A.R.E. So she wrote down handily that this was published in 1926. There's actually not a copyright page in this booklet, so it's good that she let us know that that was the date that they published this, and they did publish it locally in Norfolk. She's written the reports of readings that mention this booklet, so 4905-53, down here as well, another notation, as well as notations down here. And she also let us know that it was reprinted in 1932. They did a second print run, and also in 1937 they used it in the booklet called What I Believe, which was a set of essays by Edgar Cayce they had published. So she also saved an application form as well. You could send in, you had to be a member of A.R.E. to be able to have a stay at the hospital. And so you would fill this form out as well. She's dated it January 1930. And on the back it has conditions necessary to obtain best results from a reading, Mr. Cayce. So things to keep in mind before your reading is given to you. And, you know, through the years, as Gladys was processing all of this information, any other background information she would tuck into whatever she was working on. And so this page probably dates from probably the 70s, as well as she was going through all the publications. So anything else she had, she would, you know, type up and put with the correct material. All right, we've also got an original brochure from the opening of the hospital. So this was part of, you know, the marketing materials. So this would be given to people interested in Edgar Cayce's work, interested in going to the hospital for treatment. So this would tell them what kind of treatment that they would receive, what the hospital is like. And so we're going to open up, take a look inside. We've got the Cayce Hospital of Research and Enlightenment, Virginia Beach, Virginia, owned and operated by Association of National Investigators for its members. And we have that motto here, that we may make manifest our love for God and man, the same motto that is above the door in the visitor center today on A.R.E.'s campus. So we've got a nice portrait of Mr. Cayce. So it begins with giving an overview of where the hospital is, the environment around it. That was very important at the time for people when they were choosing an institution to go to for their health. I've seen this also in college bulletins at the time. They're very interested in what the air quality was like, what region of the country it was in. So they're very much emphasizing that this is, you know, right next to the beach and how helpful it would be to someone taking treatment here. And we've got this wonderful artist rendering of the hospital building. And if you've seen pictures of our campus or you've visited us, you know that the hospital building is that green color, which when it was renovated, we based the current color on the original color here. And you can see this is a really pretty manicured looking lawn that they've got going on. It's a tiny bit of wishful thinking, because at the time it was mostly sand dunes, and you can see here on this photograph. And it really, you know, shows how really sparsely built up the beach was at this time in the late 1920s. So you've got the Cavalier Hotel down the beach, this direction, right? And there really wasn't much else between the Cavalier and the hospital. And so Virginia Beach, originally a very, very small fishing hamlet, basically. And so it really got built up over time, especially during the mid-20th century. So we've got a lot of great interior shots of the hospital. We've got a solarium here. Plenty of sunlight. So different areas. So we've got living room and dining room. Now this is now the entrance to the spa. up in the hospital building presently. And we have Gray's Kitchen, the restaurant here, and it's actually located behind this wall where these two double doors are now. Here they have photos of the bedrooms you could stay in. There was different rates actually if you had a beach-facing bedroom or a forest-facing bedroom. And the library and lecture hall. The founders of the hospital, including Morton Blumenthal, would give lectures on topics from the Cayce material on Sunday afternoons. And there's also a library that they're very interested in building up, and that would also be used by Atlantic University when it was founded around the same time. And Edgar's son, Hewlin, when he graduated from college in 1930, came back and became a youth librarian for a short time. So it tells us, who were the staff of the hospital. Dr. House leading the staff here. A lot of descriptions of the neighborhood around the region, how to get to the hospital as well, travel arrangements. And this is where the labyrinth is presently, the campus. Originally, it was just the walkway, and then here would be a fountain. And we've got a fountain there right now, but the original fountain was actually dedicated to Edgar Cayce's mother, Carrie. She had passed away in 1926, and so that was a memorial to her. Keeping with the architectural theme, I found this pretty recently. We actually have the color scheme for the interior of the hospital originally. So they asked Taylor System of Color Harmony up in New York City, which I think was very fitting for them to choose a company that was very interested in, what are the best colors and the best colors that work together to be the most healing environment the hospital have. And so that's really, really neat that we have those original color chips that they were using in the design. We also have the dedication address when the hospital was opened. A great photo there, the outside. And it was held on Armistice Day of November 11th, 1928. So Armistice Day being the date of the end of the First World War. And it has transcriptions of all the different talks that were given at the day. See that Mr. Edgar Cayce did the prayer and also a talk. Address of welcome by Morton Blumenthal, and then the main address by William Moseley Brown, who is the president of Atlantic University. So this gives us a great idea of who the different people involved in the work at this time, all their views on what they were doing and their purposes and stuff like that. And we have more promotional material, which tells us they were really interested in reaching out to the local community and seeing if they could drum up support there. So we've got these wonderful printed flyers from the time. And Gladys's notes, telling us when things are published. And something I find really interesting, we also have the inventory of the hospital. And so when the hospital closed in 1930, Morton Edwin Blumenthal's lawyers and their accountant came by to, collect all the accounts, all the information of the property. And so we actually have a copy of the inventory. And this is really important because it gives us, exactly what the interior looked like. All the different pieces of furniture, all the equipment, what color things were. So you could really create this whole, illustration of what it was actually like. And this goes on for several pages, it tells you what everything cost and what the floor plan, how it was laid out. So really a very important document to have. And finally, a bit of organizational information. We have all of the proxy voting forms for the board of the hospital. So if you could not attend the board meeting in Virginia Beach, you would appoint a proxy to vote for you. And so we have all of these forms from all the board meetings from 1927 until 1930. So all of these records, they're all pieces of a puzzle. And so you take all of these, and this gives you a great idea of what the hospital was all about, its purposes, its activities, who was involved, down to the paint color inside the rooms. And so this is all, raw materials of history that we are so lucky to have here in the archive. It gives us a wonderful, bird's eye view into our history and where we came from. And so I hope you've really enjoyed, putting on your historian's hat and kind of exploring all of the, wonderful information that we have preserved here in the archive. Now we'll be doing a lot of these activities leading up to July. We're celebrating the 90th anniversary of A.R.E. this year. So I'm very excited to be sharing with you a lot more of these really wonderful examples of our history. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to put them all down in the comments. I'd love to answer them for you. And I'll see you all next time. Thank you very much.
Hello, welcome to another episode of A.R.E. Inside Connection, where we bring you the behind the scenes of the happenings at the A.R.E. My name is Loretto, and I am the marketing coordinator here. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Dong Hogue, who is the senior administrator for Cayce Reilly School of Massage. Welcome, Don. I'm so happy to have you here and to talk with you today.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to join you on this beautiful day.
Yes. So for our viewers that may not be familiar with Cayce Reilly, can you give us a little background about the massage school, maybe its mission, kind of how we got started, all of that?
Yeah, well, so the mission of the school is to offer a quality, comprehensive education in the art and science of massage therapy. And that is based on the readings of Edgar Cayce and the health philosophy applications of those readings by Dr. Reilly. And I'd emphasize the words out of that mission, art and science. I mean, that really is, I think, at the heart of what our program strives to do in providing students who want to enter the professional field of massage therapy. Obviously, a very grounded education in the sciences and anatomy and physiology, but also the artistic healing arts side of the practice, which
I love that.
from the Cayce material. So the school, we offer a 700-hour program. The school's been in operation since 1987. So next year we'll be celebrating, what does that make, 35 years, which is
Yeah.
something we're very proud of as a proprietary institution. That's a very, very long life, long and healthy life. And yeah, we are one of just maybe a select few of CompTIA accredited schools in the state of Virginia. And, you know, we're obviously very unique. You know, we've been around for a long time, and a well-honed, well-designed, and well-operated program. Yeah.
So what do you think are some of the things that differentiate, you know, Cayce Reilly School of Massage in comparison to some of the other more, you know, other schools that are out there?
Well, I'm probably going to be a little repetitive in saying that, you know, it's really I think our emphasis on the healing arts, and I know that's a broad statement, and so I would just specify it to say we really put a direct emphasis on how massage therapists should treat their clients. So a lot of massage schools teach very similar, you know, what to do, and similar strokes and techniques. Of course, the Cayce Reilly massage routine is very unique and trademarked for our school specifically. So that definitely distinguishes us. But it's also in the how we train our students to treat people. And I that is probably a key distinction, along with the Cayce philosophies and principles of body, mind, and spirit integration, having the Cayce readings to rely upon and be our foundation for that body, mind, spirit aspect of the program. A lot of our students say that's what brings them to the school specifically, is that unique difference. And it's definitely our, you know, our claim to fame, if you will. I mean, it's definitely what distinguishes us from the rest.
Yeah, and you know, I've gotten a couple student massages throughout the years that I have been working here, and I love them. You know, you get to see how the students really get involved, and you know, they're passionate about it, and you can feel that. And it is a different style of massage technique, and maybe not the technique per se, but just the whole interaction, as you're mentioning. You know, I really enjoy it, and I know you guys do an amazing job with the students, and I have fun getting the little perk of getting, you know, student massages once in a while.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. You know, and it's funny to say, like, it's something you can't put your finger on it, but you can feel it. You know,
yes,
the paradox. Like, you can feel the difference, but it's, you know, it's something you have to feel also.
Yeah. You know what I like about the signature Cayce massage, and I always ask for it, is the stomach massage. You know, the little belly rub. It's just, I love it.
That's right. Me too. That's one of my favorite parts. I mean, just like you, I love everything about it. I love to receive it as often as I can. And yeah, it's the way it's put together and the intention of our students, and I think just the quality of care that they're trained to give and how they interact with people is really, I mean, that's just important in any vocation, but especially massage.
Yeah, definitely. So now tell me a little bit more about you. How long have you been, you know, part of Cayce Reilly? And yeah, just tell us a little bit about, you know, your background.
Okay. Well, I'm proud to be an alumni of the Cayce Reilly School. So that's where my relationship with the school specifically started, was back in, 1996. So, you know, it feels like yesterday, but wasn't. That was a long time ago. I first became familiar with the Cayce material when I was in college in like the, you know, early 90s. And, you know, that really piqued my interest, and I'd grown up in Virginia Beach pretty much. And so when I returned after college, I found my way to the A.R.E. kind of on a regular basis and to the massage school. And yeah, just really loved the program and felt like even from that first day of practicing hands-on, felt like a resonance with it.
Mm.
I didn't know what it was going to mean for me professionally at that time. I had no idea it would lead me into such a wide-ranging and decades-long rewarding career, but I very much believe in the value of massage and what it does for people, mentally, physically, emotionally. I think it's good for people. And so I think that passion has definitely inspired me, to remain in the profession all these years. I started working at the school specifically about, I guess, 15 years ago, on the team. And so, I love that work too. It's very different than client-based work, but I really love the experience of supporting students through the program and, just kind of connecting to where they are when they start the program and that passion and excitement, and also being able to envision where it will take them. Is just another kind of opportunity for me to share my love of the school with other people. I teach some classes, ethics and business. I support our faculty very directly in my work. And I also focus on our compliance. So our accreditation, our state approvals, all of the kind of nuts and bolts that keep us operating and able to operate. So I really enjoy all of it, and I love the school and feel really blessed to be there doing what I do.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a job or a position where you get to do a little bit of everything. You're kind of very much involved in just about all of the aspects between, handling students and the faculty and just kind of, the whole overall operations of the school.
Yeah, I do. My fingers, my hands kind of, touch on every piece from to end. And like I said, it's a blessing. It really is. Yeah.
So, 2020 was a hard year for all of us. And I know that the massage school had to really kind of shift things around a little bit. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about how you had to kind of change what you do during the pandemic? Like what were some of the things that, you had to implement?
I guess the question is, what didn't we change?
Right.
I mean, a lot of the people didn't change. Some people did, some of who does what changed in 2020, but it was really how we do what we do that changed dramatically. And it really changed for, a very kind of specific period of time, I would say from February, March last year until probably the fall last year. We made an expedited shift into virtual learning. So very much like what we're doing right now, our students and our faculty adapted to interacting with each other through Zoom, through the Google Education Classroom platform. And so lectures were happening virtually, and faculty were having to observe and assess and monitor students practicing at home through a camera. Fortunately, we were able to make those accommodations due to COVID. I mean, a lot of massage schools all around the country were doing a very similar type of scramble, if you will, especially in the beginning, which I say that now and it almost sounds like maybe it was easier than what it was in the moment, but our students come to our school and our faculty teach at our school because they're very kinesthetic, hands-on learners, teachers. And so to have that personal interaction and in-person experience taken out of the equation was just a big adjustment for everyone. And I speak on behalf of all of our staff and faculty to say how proud I am that our faculty and students adapted so well, not to say that there weren't some bumps and technical glitches, as we've all experienced in this new world, but they really, they didn't shy away from the opportunity. They walked into it with eyes open, arms open, and a willingness, to adapt. And I know that was challenging. So yeah, I'm super proud of how everyone did adjust in the ways that they did. So we went virtual for a while. It was just virtual. And then throughout last summer, we started to do a blend of some instruction was in virtual world, some was in person on campus. And we needed to accommodate and allow for people that for whatever reason didn't feel comfortable, to be back in person for activities. And so there was a time when we were kind of doing all of it at the same time. Now we've evolved and lecture-based classes are done in this format virtually. One is back in person on campus with COVID protocols, wearing masks, keeping social distance, hand washing, temperature checks, particular protocols for the hygiene of clothing and cloth equipment and all of our supplies. So that's another, I think, testament to our willingness to adapt and do what we have to do, to make sure that our program carried on and carries on. And we didn't have one interruption all of last year. Like there was no time when the school had to cease or stall or pause our operations. And that's a pretty remarkable.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I remember when everything was starting, and we were all kind of scrambling, trying to figure out what we were going to do, with our events and just kind of all of the in-person things that we do here at the A.R.E. And I remember hearing about the massage school and how, you guys kind of just put together, you shifted your focus and quickly put together, this whole plan that happened in like, a few days. And I was just, everybody was kind of blown away how, quickly everybody was on task and ready to do what needed to be done, to make sure that the school didn't, suffer or get, or had to stop or anything like that. So definitely kudos to that.
Thank you. Well, and I'm the one being able to say thank you, but it was, trust me, a group effort, and a lot of, even once it was kind of established, a lot of follow up and, okay, here's what's working, here's what's not working, and how do we tweak and fix and improve, all of it. So it was definitely an evolution and really took everybody's commitment and patience, and just willingness to adapt. I think that's the key phrase from last year was the willingness to adapt.
Yeah. And I mean, it seems like, we're kind of still in that process where we are still having to be careful and, turning lightly about how things are happening. A lot of restrictions are being lifted, but there's still a lot of things that, a lot of protocols and guidelines that need to be followed. So I'm sure it's kind of, still a time for adaptation and all of that. So.
That's right. That's right. And, I think, I know I hear this theme of remain vigilant too, and not relaxing into what we think, oh, we're okay. I mean, yes, it's really nice to see things kind of opening up and moving in a positive direction and, still having to be sure we're wearing our masks properly and, washing our hands properly and doing checks and all of those things, to make sure that there's no, back steps.
Yeah, for sure. So I heard some exciting news about the students of the school and some tests that they have to take to become licensed therapists.
Yes.
There was a news release that we're working on. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Another like, can you believe it kind of thing from COVID. So students that go through our program, and actually it's, I'd say, accepted in most of the states. Just about every state requires that a person who wants to get a massage therapy license has to take a national exam, and it's called the MBLEX, Massage Bodywork Licensure Exam. And schools, you can request from the agency that administers the exam, you can request what's called a score report. And you tell them the time frame that you want to receive the reports of scores of every student from your school that has taken that test. And so every year, as part of our accreditation compliance, we have to request the report, but we're always curious to kind of get too. So this year we collected the report that was from July 2019 to June 2020. So very much in the heart of COVID, when students were graduating, trying to get into the profession, taking this licensure exam. Our school, I should say, because of our students, had a pass rate of 100%.
Oh, that's amazing.
I should specify that's first time test takers. When you drill down into the data, there's some other details, but really the highlight is that yes, the first time test takers within that reporting period, 100% pass rate in comparison to the national pass rate, which I think is in the 68-69% range. So, it far exceeds that national average. And yeah, we were super excited and proud. And again, just goes to show, I think that quality of education and the quality of care and the quality of our instructors really, and how they do what they do. So
yes, that is amazing.
Thrilled.
Those are some really exciting news. That really goes to show, that the program is just one of the best.
Yeah. Well, and that's also, good data for us when we are marketing and promoting the program to people. We get asked like, so what can I expect when I get into the field? And I hear there's this test that I have to take. How do your graduates do? It's really, you can see their surprise and their excitement when we tell them that, that's our pass rate, 100%. We're always pretty high in our pass rate. I have to, say high 80s, 90s, but 100% is pretty awesome. And it reflects the quality of the program as well as the pathway, to employment for our graduates, which, is really the underlying mission of why we do what we do, to help, put them into the field, doing work that they love. So,
do you hear back from the students often about what they're doing and,
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, we hear, I especially from the position I'm in, I hear from graduates that want to, ask, when can I come back and work? When can I come teach at school?
I love it.
Sometimes even before they graduate, they want to know, when can they, become an assistant instructor or an instructor? So, there's always, a handful of students that really want to stay connected to the community and, get involved in the classroom. But we do survey our students formally, and we collect, feedback from them informally about where they're working and what they've learned since graduating from the school, if there's anything they wish they knew more about while they were going through the program, or any way they could have felt, better prepared to enter the field. We have lots of ways that we formally gather feedback right at graduation and past graduation, and then informally too, just with our own communications, alumni Facebook page, and just, a really good network of people that like to keep in touch and stay connected. So,
yeah, that's great. I mean, that's valuable information, that you can use to improve in any areas that may be needed, or, just, it's good to have that feedback.
That's right. Even the best program can continue to get better,
Of course. Yeah, definitely.
So that's right.
So what inspires you from seeing some of the students when they graduate the school? I mean, I bet like the excitement, and I from what I've heard before, I hear students time and time again who just say how the program just kind of transformed their lives. They were almost not expecting such a deep transformation.
Right. That's a great question, and it's kind of I mean, I could take up like the rest of your afternoon, probably answer what inspires me, but I guess to answer it, I'll share that for every group that comes through the program, we do what's called an exit interview. And myself and a couple of other administrative staff, we meet with each student individually, and we have a series of questions that we ask them about the program, their experience. And there's a question that we ask about, how has the school impacted you personally? And it's not uncommon for me to tear up, for them to tear their responses. And like you said, maybe it's not visible to me, especially because I'm not in the classroom with them all the time. But so, sometimes I'm not aware of how deeply their experience at the school has impacted them personally, but they'll share things about how it's improved their health, it's improved their relationships with people in their lives. Obviously, it's given them a career pathway, but I especially find it touching when I read how it's helped them be compassionate and loving and understanding of themselves and then of other people. To me, that just speaks to the heart of the Cayce work.
Yeah.
Really kind of being in service to our fellow man. And so when I hear that, when I see that, that just really, I think that is a huge inspiration for me. And then seeing them, seeing the excitement on their face and seeing their families so happy for them at graduation when they're getting that diploma. Yeah, seeing their families, I think, just be so proud and happy.
Yeah.
Cheering for them is also really emotional for me, usually at graduation. I feel like, and I say this often, like I'm just a part of something bigger, that represents something so much more than any individual. And it's that in and of itself is a pretty big inspiration, to feel like you are a part of something that really has impacted people, and then all the people that they will impact because of it. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I love working, at the A.R.E, because you get to see more of the impact. For me at least, I'm just marketing, I'm just sharing the stuff out there about the organization, but I still feel like whatever I put out there, for some people it's making a difference, and I think that you just know that you're doing something good.
Right. Yeah. I think for me, that's definitely the underlying foundation, and always felt that way, even, going back to just starting as a massage therapist. Like whatever happens in this session, however well I do or maybe don't do, I know it's helping somebody in some way, doing good. And so I still carry that very heart of the work, and everything that's related to the school. So yeah. Love it.
Great. Well, we're getting ready to, end our discussion today. But tell me what's coming up for the school. I know you were starting a semester coming up soon.
Yeah, we have another. So we start the program 3 times a year, in February, in June, and in October. So we are gearing up for our June start. And we've starting last fall. I think that's when we started it, and we're continuing it. We are now having our students that start the program, not only, do they have a great opportunity with their training, but they all receive a massage table package. It's a value of $650. It's an outstanding, high quality massage table package. The table, the carrying case, the face cradle, a bolster, like the key equipment they need to start their career, as well as, be able to practice while they're in school and really get proficient in their techniques, but be career ready when they finish. So
that's great.
So that's a great incentive. Anybody out there that might be thinking about massage school, I would highly encourage, you to come take a tour, talk to our admissions coordinator, Teresa. She will tell you all about the program. It starts on the first day of class is June 21st. We're having orientation on the 17th. And so there's plenty of time. There is space available and plenty of time if anybody's so inclined. I would definitely tell them it'll be a life changer in a very positive way.
Yes, I'm sure. And you guys have some financial aid available for people that may need some?
Yeah, we do. So we are able to offer federal financial aid to our students who qualify. So students go through the same financial aid application program as they would if they were going to a college or university. That there's formulas that determine their eligibility, but certainly they can utilize those grants, loans to apply to our tuition. We also accept the GI Bill benefits. So anybody who is a dependent, a spouse, or a retired military member of the military can use their GI Bill benefits for our program as well. And we, make special payment arrangements for people who might pay out of pocket. So there's lots of support that we give, lots of resources and lots of assistance through the application process for financial aid as well as for the program itself.
Great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I make sure to add a link to the Cayce Reilly page so that people are aware and can directly go to that. But I am so excited that we had this conversation. I really enjoyed listening to you, and you can hear the passion that you have for the work and the school. So I really enjoyed our talk today.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you again for the opportunity. It was really nice to see you.
Thank you. Same here. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching, and I will see you next time. Okay. All right. Okay. So hi, Judith. You have been part of the A.R.E. for many years, and you're currently the A.R.E.'s National Outreach Manager. And you also founded the A.R.E.'s Prison Outreach Program many years ago. So can you tell me a little bit about how you found out about the A.R.E. and Edgar Cayce, and what got you interested in working here?
All right, well, someone, I don't remember who, gave me a copy of Tom Segru's wonderful biography. I have a picture of it right here. There is a River.
Yes.
And I read it and I had the most unusual reaction, Loretto. I wept and wept and wept reading that book. I'd never had that kind of reaction before, and I wondered about it, but I didn't know what to make of it. And so flash forward 1968, I moved to Virginia Beach through a series of unusual circumstances. I find myself here and I need a job. A friend of mine who was a fellow musician told me there was an opening at something called the A.R.E. So not even knowing what it was, I came up here and interviewed for a job as an administrative assistant in the press. Everett Irian was the personnel manager at the time. He interviewed me and I had to type up an Edgar Cayce reading. That was my typing test. Well, as soon as I saw that, I made the connection with the book and this place. And I thought, all the time I was asking God for my next step and directions, he was bringing me here to the doorstep of the A.R.E. And 20 days later, I was working here. And what's interesting is I worked here for 17 years, was invited back for 4 or 5 more, have just been invited back for 3 or 4 more. And I am now sitting where you see me in the very spot I started in 1968, the exact same spot.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I feel as if I have come full circle for sure.
Yes.
And this has been a wonderful life-changing event for me. I came to A.R.E. as a single parent, and I've used the readings to raise my son with wonderful results. We work with our dreams together, meditation and prayer, the castor oil packs, the medical aspects of the readings. I tried everything for myself. I did not want to take anything on anyone else's word. So when I went to my first staff meditation here at the A.R.E., I prayed, God, don't let anything weird happen to me. I'm not ready for it. And sure enough, nothing weird happened. I sat down in the room with people of all ages, races, sexes, long-haired hippies, little old ladies, men in business suits. It seemed as if everyone in the world could come in, sit down, get quiet, and something important would happen in that room. I didn't have words for it then, but fortunately I literally ran into Gladys Davis Turner, Edgar Cayce's secretary.
Yes.
Both of us were picking up trash in the parking lot, and it was inevitable that we would meet in the middle. And she said, knowing I was new, Judith, are you in a study group yet? And I didn't even know what they were. And I said, no, ma'am. And she pointed across the street to the nurses' quarters and said, our Monday night group meets there every Monday night at 7:30. I want you to come. Well, I never missed a meeting unless I was traveling for the A.R.E. If it was Monday night, I was there with that study group. And I really just sort of fell in feet first. The good thing about this work, it's so universal. You don't have to really know what is going to happen. You just sort of go forward in faith, and what's supposed to happen happens. So in my case, I changed my diet. I began a practice of meditation. I began community service projects with my son, something that we'd always done. Starting the prison program was just a natural because I started reading these letters from inmates and no one was really answering them. So I began doing that. And then in 1972, when I was moved to the study group program, we incorporated the prison program. It was called Over the Wall then, into that study group program, which was perfect. And it's been there ever since, still going after all those years, and still sending free books to people in prison, still working with incarcerated men and women. And our A.R.E. members are actually mentors. They write to them.
Yeah.
So if I had to say what has helped me in this work, I would tell you that quite seriously, with physical conditions, I got rid of a wart that I had as a child my whole life using castor oil and baking soda from the readings with a Band-Aid for a couple of weeks. It just fell off, never came back. I was diagnosed with cyst on my uterus, and so or ovaries rather, and I went to the readings, got the circulating filed on ovarian cyst, and did exactly what it said. And when I went back, they were gone. The castor oil packs dissolved the cyst. There was no trace of them. So even on small matters, my son knew better than to get sick. He was a very healthy child because he knew if he got sick, I would doctor him. But when I worked at another job, I once brought in, the secretary came limping in one morning. She had been out dancing the night before and she had twisted her ankle. So I got my castor oil and a pack out of my car, which I always carried, and we put the pack on her. She was up and walking later that day. She couldn't believe it. Of course, I took my glycothymoline in and other things.
I absolutely love that. One of the things I enjoy the most, just having worked with you is just, the study groups, you just bring so much knowledge and wisdom from back in the day. And you have been doing this for such a long time that you really get to have a sense of what was happening back then. You have all your little tidbits that you provide during the different study group meetings that I've been with you, where you just kind of bring us back to how it was back in the day. And I just think that's just so powerful. And I appreciate it because I know, you've been in this for a long time. And
well, I count it a great blessing that I was privileged to meet some of the people that I call the pioneers of the work. Hugh Lynn Cayce, Gladys Davis Turner, LCC Chris, people like that. They were just genuine, down-to-earth people. They didn't really wear their titles. They live this work, and the dignity with which they did it and the integrity was what pulled me in, because I think we're all on the lookout for something that rings true to us.
Yeah.
This work rang true to me. When I saw it, something deep inside me recognized it at some soul level, and I knew I was being called back to do this.
Yes. That's how I feel.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like an innate, you just know it. You know, it's just, you're supposed to be here for one reason or another.
Loretta, we have done this work before, and we are back to do it again and to do the best we know how.
Yeah.
I'm delighted. Thank you so much.
I have one last question.
Sure.
If you could have a conversation with Edgar Cayce, what would be one thing that you would tell him? Or that you would like to know?
Oh, there's so many things that we would all like to know. When we look at the readings, we wonder why people didn't ask, you know, this, that, or the other. But if I could have a conversation with him, I would want to thank him. I'm going to get emotional about this, but I would want to thank him for being willing to lay down his life for others, because that is what he did. And look at the legacy of what he left us that we can still use and become better people from using today.
Yeah. Thank you, Judith. That was beautiful.
My pleasure.
And when the morning stars sang together, and the whispering winds brought the news of the coming of man's indwelling, of the Spirit of the Creator, became the living soul. This entity came into being.
He has been called the sleeping prophet and the greatest psychic of all time. From holistic health to predictions about our future, the Cayce material covers all aspects of life. Hundreds of books have explored his amazing talent. Are you looking for a new direction or answers to life's many questions? Find out how the Edgar Cayce information can help you with a better understanding of the body-mind-spirit connection, the oneness of God, and the meaning of life.
Hello, I'm John Van Auken, one of the directors here at the Association for Research and Enlightenment, the A.R.E. Have you ever wondered whether there is more to life? Do you know your soul's unique purpose and reason for being on the earth at this time? Our organization was founded in 1931 to help answer these very questions and to help individuals like you discover a depth that adds meaning to your life.
Edgar Cayce has been called the sleeping prophet and the father of holistic medicine. As a child, he was able to memorize the pages of a book simply by sleeping on it. For more than 40 years, Cayce gave psychic readings to thousands of people while in an unconscious state, diagnosing illnesses and revealing details of their past and future. Many of his readings dealt with holistic health and the treatment of illnesses. He started the Edgar Cayce Association for Research and Enlightenment, or A.R.E., in Virginia Beach because he noticed his gift worked best near large bodies of water. Although Virginia Beach was just a small fishing town then, Cayce had a vision it would become a huge tourist attraction, and Norfolk would boast one of the largest shipyards and ports in the country. We now go to this center, which acts as the international headquarters of the A.R.E.
Edgar Cayce's dream was to be of help to people. Lots of times people in life, they get overwhelmed with their life, their relationships, with their job, and sometimes they have the thought, you know, isn't there more to life than this? And I think Edgar Cayce would suggest that in fact there is, that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. Edgar Cayce is the most documented psychic of all time. He lived between 1877 and 1945. For 43 years of his adult life, somehow he was able to put himself to sleep, close his eyes, and while asleep, he could be asked virtually any question imaginable. The name Edgar Cayce sometimes is much more prominent and famous throughout the world than it is here in Virginia Beach. I have been on planes all over the world. We have Edgar Cayce centers in 38 countries. We do programs around the world, and very often on a plane they'll say, "Where are you from?" I'll say, "Virginia Beach." "Ah, Edgar Cayce." Sometimes there's kind of like a misperception. Well, what's it all about? Is it some kind of a ghost researchers? Is it some kind of a religious movement? No, I usually tell people the best way to describe us is really as a self-help organization. Edgar Cayce provided a wealth of information for individuals, just like you and I, how we could maintain a better lifestyle, how we can take better care of our physical bodies, how we can learn to deal with our attitudes and emotions, how we can help transform our relationships. So the questions you have about your life are just like questions that people asked Edgar Cayce 70, 80, 90 years ago. And the answers to those questions came to be called readings. And they found that Edgar Cayce had an incredible accuracy rate. He could put himself to sleep here in Virginia Beach, tune into an individual virtually anywhere in the world, diagnose what was wrong with that person, how they had gotten ill to begin with, even sometimes recommend doctors for them to go to. And over the years, we kept track of all of Edgar Cayce's readings, his correspondence with people who had readings, and in fact, the Edgar Cayce database contains approximately 24 million words. And for that reason, Cayce has been called the most documented psychic of all time. Edgar Cayce was a Christian. He was a member of Protestant churches all his life. He taught Sunday school all his life. So at first, when some of this information started coming through him, he thought it was unusual. The ability to go to sleep and see another person at a distance, or the ability to put himself into a trance and answer questions about other different religions or history or whatever it might be. His reading of the Bible, where he saw the Old and New Testaments were filled with visions and dreams and people having experiences in consciousness, that gave him a tremendous sense of well-being, that somehow, because of his tremendous faith, he was able to do these things. The first publicity was really the New York Times in 1910. They ran a full-page spread about the illiterate man who became a doctor when hypnotized. He wasn't illiterate, but that was a better headline. But it was an amazing ability to somehow tune into someone at a distance. I would say that for many years he had essentially 2 readings a day, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And it wasn't really until 1942 when his biography, There Is a River, came out. It was really his life story. And people bought that book and became very interested. And then the following year, 1943, Coronet magazine published an article called The Miracle Man of Virginia Beach. And Coronet was really the life magazine of its day. And because of those 2 publications, the requests for reading became so frequent that Edgar Cayce told his secretary to book in advance in order to stay kept up with the demand. He was really worried about all these people. The postman was apparently delivering bags of mail each day. Eventually, Edgar Cayce wore himself out and had a stroke. And when he died, he had been booked 8 readings a day, 2 years in advance. So truly toward the end of his life, people realized that his gift was remarkable, and so many people wanted help. Edgar Cayce founded the A.R.E. in 1931, really as a membership/research organization where people could come and see what this material was all about. For example, I first became interested in A.R.E. because I had some really challenging problems with allergies. I used to get 6 allergy shots a week. Now, by working with the Cayce information on allergies, I don't even take pills anymore. It was also his desire where people would come and they would be able to get readings, and he would have a team of doctors, nurses, physiotherapists carrying out the treatment. Holistic health from Cayce's perspective is an approach to health that incorporates the whole person, the body, the mind, the emotions, and the spiritual beliefs of that individual. And so when Edgar Cayce gave a reading, a health reading, and we have copies of approximately 9,000 health readings, he would try to provide information and insight that would help that person on every level. He did not just draw upon alternatives to medicine. He drew upon every kind of medicine known to humankind. He recommends surgery, he recommends osteopathic adjustments, chiropractic adjustments, naturopathy, physical therapy, dietary changes. Anything that you can imagine was recommended by the Cayce material. And in fact, a group of physicians who became interested in holism because of the Edgar Cayce material really were the ones responsible for founding the American Holistic Medical Association in 1978. And today, the old Edgar Cayce Hospital has been transformed into our health center and spa. So people come here for massage, they come here for chiropractic adjustment, they come here for dietary advice, they come here for regression therapy. So in a sense, we are continuing Cayce's health tradition even today. We have the Cayce Reilly School of Massage that trains people in massage therapy. I believe we've graduated about 2,100 different students from 18 different countries. If people have never been here and are hesitant to visit because they might think it might be unusual, we're just like a visitor center. You can walk in, you can explore the bookstore, you can go through the labyrinth, you can walk through our meditation gardens. It's a very open, wonderful place to visit. Tours come here all the time, and I think if you haven't been here before, you will really enjoy coming to visit Edgar Cayce's A.R.E.
Visit edgarcayce.org for more information and to gain access to resources on how to treat hundreds of ailments from acne to varicose veins.
Latent within you are talents, ancient wisdom, and all the answers to reaching your soul's full potential in this lifetime. For nearly 100 years, America's most amazing seer, Edgar Cayce, and the organization that grew from those early beginnings has been providing tools for personal empowerment and spiritual growth to its members. As members, you can explore issues of body, mind, and spirit within a community of like-minded people. Quarterly, we publish a mystery-revealing magazine titled Venture Inward. Members also have access to an exclusive online membership section with all 14,306 Edgar Cayce readings in a searchable database, plus background material such as letters, historical documents, and more. Plus, you'll enjoy hours of audio and video materials, including recent events from Virginia Beach and special selections from the archives. We also maintain an extensive health database, online dream interpretation, and a free meditation course. Next, you're going to hear about the benefits from our members in their own words.
I grew up with a very religious, very strong religious foundation through my family, which is one of the many reasons that my spirituality has always been so important to me. It's also one of the reasons I was so thrilled to find out about the A.R.E. and Edgar Cayce's work. And my favorite part about being a member is the fact that I have access to all of those readings and any other spiritual material I could think of online.
I became a member of A.R.E. because the information that came through Edgar Cayce has changed my life, and it has helped me so much in my own personal struggles that I wanted to give something back, and I became a life member 2 years ago. Definitely, even just the stories of healing alone are worth investigating this information further.
I do use the members-only parts of the website. I use them for, in particular, health issues, the Edgar Cayce readings, and I like to look at Venture Inward magazine on the website. The information given has helped my spiritual path and spiritual growth.
And I could identify with Edgar Cayce more in his human element. I'm always interested in the human element because I'm so human myself that it gave me hope that I too could transform myself. I would share that if you are interested in looking at this video, that you pursue it more yourself and make up your own mind.
I would say for them to really read into his material and really read about who Edgar Cayce was as a person. Because if you read about his history and the type of person that he was, it's really hard not to want to be a part of such a positive movement. I always had the philosophy that each and every one of us, as we have a soul, has some kind of psychic ability, and it's why when we form close bonds with each other, we're able to kind of pick up on emotions and that kind of stuff. So I was really excited to learn about how I could better develop my psychic ability through the Edgar Cayce readings and the work, and be able to incorporate that into my spirituality also.
Applying this information in your life, you will gain an insight into your soul's purpose and its full potential.
Visit edgarcayce.org.